All right, guys, so our next project that we're going to be working on is Scratchboard Animals, and you can see a bunch of examples here. So the question is, what is Scratchboard? Scratchboard is actually a technique, and it's also the medium. So Scratchboard is actually like a backing of some sort. So we're going to be using one that's actually like a heavy paper. And then it's got a layer of chalk or clay, and you can see that over here. And then it's got ink on top of it. Okay, it's got India ink, and you can click this link in the slides and look up what India ink is if you want to. But essentially, a scratchboard is something where in order to make the picture, you're scratching away the India ink and it shows the white underneath. There's scratchboards that have color underneath them, like different colors or whatever, but we're using one that's just black and white. A little bit about the history of scratchboard. It originated in the 19th century in Britain and France. And then it was one of the preferred techniques for medical, scientific, and product illustrations. So you could get super detailed with it, and that's why it was so popular. There's an artist named Virgil Finlay, and they made very, very detailed illustrations. You can look them up and look at some more of them, but here's a good example of one of them. Some other examples for you guys, and this is a video, kind of like a time lapse, so you can watch that if you would like to in the slides. Here's some other examples of some animal ones. So what you're going to notice in the similarity in some of these is that it's not necessarily the entire animal, it's more of like a portrait. And the reason for that is because you want to be able to really see all the fur marks on all the little tiny, like almost like each individual hair. You can also try feathers, but feathers can get a little bit tricky because they don't always behave like hair, and hair is probably the easiest approach to scratchboard in terms of making a drawing because you can literally look at the direction of the fur and the length of the fur, and that literally tells you what your mark should look like. Here's a couple more examples for you. I really like this one. I think this one's really nice. So you can do, you can do a portrait of an animal that's a little bit more up close. I get a question a lot like, can I do my own pet? You sure can. You just have to have a really good image where you can actually see the fur marks. So that can get kind of tricky. It depends on the phone, and it depends on, your photography skills and stuff like that. So some of the steps that we're going to be doing for this project, obviously one, choosing a subject matter, and in the assignment on Classroom regarding formatting your visual reference and gathering it, that's going to be you choosing your subject matter and then finding a good reference photo. Transferring it to the Scratchboard is something we're going to be doing after we format our photo and print it. And then, we'll be working on our Scratchboard. So the big thing to do, and we're going to be practicing Scratchboard before we actually go into our project so that you guys have a chance to really try it and kind of just get more comfortable with it. But think about value. We've talked about value enough times, and we know that there's this range, right? This range of value. We can create dark values with Scratchboard by leaving it completely alone. We can create white values by scratching away completely. And then there's the values in between where, we just want to vary our marks. And it's really about like how much space you have between your marks or how many times you layer over those marks to get a lighter or darker value. So this kind of gives you a nice kind of like just a little value scale that kind of shows how Scratchboard might work. This is what we're going to be doing for practice. So you guys will get a small piece, and we're going to try a couple different things. We'll try making a value scale. We're going to try some other kinds of marks like hatching, cross hatching. This is what you would call scumbling, which is kind of like a scribble. And then we'll try doing a little value sphere. So we're going to try and like actually apply value to a form to see if we can kind of get that sense of light, practice leaving shadow areas, things like that. And then you'll have a small section where you'll be able to take a part of your photo and try to do your best to try and just really look at the direction of the marks and how you would approach certain things. I like practicing the eye because sometimes the eye can be pretty challenging. So it's a good place to kind of just be like, okay, let me try this first. And if I mess up, okay, I'm practicing. But you learn through practice. You guys know that by now. So we'll be doing this. And then just to kind of give you a heads up, we are going to be taking our photo that we formatted to a 5x7, and we'll be using tracing paper. This is our scratch board, this little black piece. And we'll be using a pencil. We're going to trace over our image with the tracing paper, and then we're going to do what is called a lead transfer. So we'll be putting lead on the back of the tracing paper. So this is me tracing, then flipping it over, adding lead on the back, and then you're going to flip it back over on your scratch board and then go over it again with pencil. And what that does is actually puts the pencil that's on the back, the graphite that's on the back of the tracing paper, it kind of deposits it onto the scratch board. So we're not making any scratch marks, but it transfers the lead over so that you have sort of an outline of, you know, what you're going to be using as your project, right? Now, when you do this, and we'll talk about this again when we get there, the key to tracing your animal, it's not just an outline, it's also like little reflections and changes in value and things like that. Anything that you would consider like a shape that you want to keep track of while you're working, you would want to go ahead and make sure you trace that as a line so that when you get to this point, you have those things there, right, in place. You can see I've got eyes, I've got the little marks for his little light spots and all that good stuff, okay? And then as you work, you can see here's my image transferred on. You're going to be using your image as a constant visual resource, right? Because we have to always pay attention to where the fur, how long the fur is, what direction it's going in, all that stuff, okay? So some questions to think about while you're working. What is the variety of lines and shape in your picture? Is there positive and negative space, like your background and things like that? How are you going to incorporate value into this? So again, really paying attention to those lighter and darker areas. And then thinking about your composition overall. Okay. We're going to be doing a furry animal. Again, you can try a feathered animal, but it's going to be a step up in difficulty, okay? Sometimes students will be like, well, can I do like scales, like a fish, or can I do like a lizard or something? I'm just going to warn you, it's going to be more of a challenge, okay? So if you can settle on something that's furry, that would be best, all right? And then we're going to think about our composition while we're formatting our picture, and you'll see that in the formatting for your reference in the assignment. There's a demo video that I made for you guys to kind of guide you through formatting your photo properly so that you have what you need when I go to print them for you. Okay. So that's basically our Scratchboard, slides, and I'm going to have the slides. You guys know you can find these in our little project guide document. They're linked in the Scratchboard, assignment. But this video should help you with just learning about, how we're going to do this and what kind of subject matter you want to focus on for this one and all that good stuff. Okay. So after this, you're going to be looking for and formatting your photo, and then we'll get going on transferring. We're going to do a lead transfer onto our Scratchboard. We're going to practice Scratchboard, and then we're going right into it. All right, guys, good luck.